Ryan answers your most common questions in this episode around how to get started with investing in property right now, and what's the best property investment strategy to use in the current economy. There are so many so-called gurus just wanting to sell you some crappy course because they want to sell you anything they can. Ryan gives you the truth, which is exactly what works right now, which is how to make money using the best tactics and strategies that work for even new investors. Let me know what you think of this episode. Tweet me at RyanOttoX or leave a review and I'll send you another episode. Sound like a deal? Nothing but the truth on Tuesdays. Every Tuesday, you'll get nothing but the truth. This offensive and explicit episode covers current issues, trending topics, and more that will punch you in the face with the truth. If you can't handle that, don't listen, because Ryan does not hold back. And if you're up to no good, we're watching.
Okay, so in this episode, I'm answering a question from the audience, which has submitted a question on social media. Now, the question is how to make money right now in property. And I'm going to link that to another question, because another common question that you guys have asked as well is how to get started in property right now. Now, really, those two questions can be answered with one answer. So I'm going to link those two together. So, first of all, thank you guys for posting that question. How to make money right now in property and how to get started in property right now. So, okay. The best way that I know, I'm trying to answer this question objectively, in an unbiased way, okay? Because as you can imagine, you may have your favorite way of doing something. Somebody else might have their own preferred restaurant, place to dine. And then that could be completely different from somebody else who may prefer a different restaurant. The same for me. I could prefer a particular type of property investment strategy to make money that's maybe easier to me, to my skill set, compared to somebody else. So I'm actually going to try to answer this question objectively, to give you guys as much value as possible and to give you the best possible answer. Because for the last, 20 years, 2 decades that I've been invested in property, there's been, dozens and dozens and dozens of strategies that I've used that have all made money. Some have lost money, some have made more money than others. But, let me give you an example. Guaranteed rent, something I've been doing for a very, very, very long time, since mid-2000s, somewhere in the region of about 2004, something like that, which is very simple. Going to a landlord, paying one set rent, having permission and consent to re-let that property ethically with consent, so there's no subletting, and using simple arbitrage and charging more money and keeping the difference. That's one strategy that we've used. Then there's assisted sales. Somebody has a property for sale. They can't sell the property. There's not enough money in the property to buy the property, pay the stamp duty, pay for everything else, closing costs, carry the risk, and then sell the property. Like right now in this climate, 2020, there's a lot more risk involved. I mean, the market could fall by 20%. So let's say you've only got a 10% margin and the market falls by 20%. You've then not only lost all of your profit, you've also lost 10% as well. So some strategies work in some climates, some in other climates. But that's another one that we've used. Then you have option agreements. For example, there could be a bit of land that we've looked at. We think we can get planning permission on the land. Right now, it's just a garden, worthless piece of land, a couple of grand. But as a building plot, it's worth a couple of £100,000, okay? Just a small plot. Now, we would use an option to control that piece of property, that bit of land, which works very well in most climates, to be fair, where you pay one price or you secure it at one price, and then you agree to pay a higher price if or when you get the planning permission. As you can imagine, as a garden, it might be worth a couple of grand. As a building plot, it may be worth a couple of 100,000 or, even up to, 500,000, $1 million, depending on where it is and how big it is and how many properties you can build there. Okay. And, so there's just 3 strategies, for example. We've used dozens and dozens and dozens of strategies since the year 2000 when I first got started. And for me to be impartial, I'm going to give you the best property strategy that I know that also works or dovetails with the other question, which is what works right now, how to get started in property right now. Now, many of you guys, my audience, listeners that have been listening to this podcast for a while, you may hear me saying the same thing, but that's because that's my truth. That is the truth. And this is what I preach to anybody who wants to get into property right now. Anybody who wants the easiest and fastest way to make money, real money from property right now, especially right now in 2020. I mean, this particular strategy, the barriers, the entry-level barriers have been removed or they've been brought down so low that anybody wanting to get into property, to make money from property, to replace their salary right now, maybe just to generate some money, maybe just to generate a second income. Maybe this could be the only income they've got if they're furloughed or fired or on a 0-hour contract, or anything else with what's happening in the pandemic, which we're still in right now in June 2020. So this really is just me giving you everything that I can give you. This is the best strategy, the fastest strategy, lowest barriers to entry, lowest amount of money that it costs to get started. You don't need to buy a property. You don't need to be the owner. You don't need to put a big mortgage deposit down. You don't even need any credit whatsoever. And you can make 10 times what the landlord is making by doing this particular strategy. Now, you're probably wondering, oh my gosh, this sounds amazing. It sounds too good to be true. You're telling me it's so easy, etc. It's so easy to get in. Doesn't take a lot of money. It's very easy to get into. It doesn't take a lot of money at all. And this is a fantastic strategy to make money right now. Okay, what is this strategy? Very, very simple. Everybody here, well, maybe not everybody here, has anybody listening right now ever rented a property? That's a very simple question. If you answered yes to that, you'll know how simple it is to rent a property. You go to an agent or you go to a landlord direct on one of the private landlord websites.
If you're already shortletting on Booking.com or Airbnb and you're not generating $8,200 for your 3 beds, $6,200 for your 2 beds, or even $4,100 for your 1 beds each month, then oh my goodness, you're losing money every single month. Now, I created an ebook to show you exactly how we hit those numbers consistently in my business, and I want to give you a free copy so I can show you exactly how you can do the same. Just go to www.theyrentanyhome.com/free book and tell me where to send your copy. Does that make sense?
Now, you view the property, you like the property. You put an offer in to rent the property, normally the market rent. They send you some paperwork, you fill some paperwork in, you send it back, you send some money, you go to the property, you get the keys, maybe there's an inventory, maybe you meet an inventory clerk, you move in. That's it. It's that simple. What do you pay? 1 month's rent in advance, 1 month's rent as a deposit, or maybe even lower now. That's it. Let's say you find a property for £1,000 a month, okay? £1,000 a month. So you'd pay £1,000 to the landlord, and you'd probably give them around about £1,000 deposit as well. That's about £2,000. Is there any other property investment strategy that costs any less than £2,000 to get started for you to make money? You will make that £2,000 back, guaranteed within 3 months. Guaranteed within 3 months. So just think of this as an investment vehicle. All of the money you put in today, which is very, 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 very low, you're almost guaranteed, as long as you execute and do what you need to do, you're almost guaranteed to get it back in less than 3 months. Does that sound like a good deal to you? Get it back within 3 months. So you're now into profit straight away, and within 3 months, you've got all your money out. Now, I think that's a very, very good deal. And let me give you an example of what I mean by that and what I mean by this particular strategy. Very simple. Renting a property from a landlord or an agent. Asking for consent to re-let that property to run as a short let, as a holiday let, as a corporate let, for sharers, on a one nightly basis, or just on a short-term rental contract. I'm not talking HMO, I'm not talking about anything like that. I'm just talking about renting a property from a landlord or an agent, getting consent to re-let that property, paying one low rent, charging a higher rent. How do you get the higher rent? You get the higher rent by renting the property on a short-term basis, 1 month at a time, 1 week at a time, 1 night at a time. If you go onto booking.com, have a look at what a 1-bedroom apartment or a 2-bedroom apartment or a 3-bedroom house rents for per night. In your city, whatever city you live in, have a look in your postcode. Let's just say, look at your postcode, whatever city you live in, go onto booking.com, have a look at the closest property similar to your property. This is really good, actually. Look for your exact property that you're in right now, whether you own it or you rent it. Similar, like for like. It's got 2 bedrooms, look for 2 bedrooms. It's got 3 bathrooms, look for 3 bathrooms. It's a penthouse, look for a penthouse. It's a 4-bedroom detached house. Look for that on booking.com, okay? Have a look how much it rents for per night. Monday to Friday will be one rate. Sunday to Friday will be one rate. Fridays will be a little bit more. Saturdays will be a lot more, okay? Have a look at what that rents for per night. When you've got that figure, times that figure by however many nights there are in a year, 365. Now, that's obviously at 100% occupancy, which we don't get, or we do get that in the summer, but you don't get that all year round. We're at 84% occupancy with our short lets, okay? Now, if you have a look at even 75% to be conservative, okay? Now look at that figure you've got on your calculator, times it by 75%. Now you have that figure. That's the figure per year that your property you're in right now, whether you own it or you rent it, that's the figure that will rent at. Now, I can guarantee that when you're looking at that figure will be around about 2 to 250% above the market rent for the property that you're in right now. 2 to 250% more than the property that you're in right now above what the market or the asking rent is. So when you look at those two numbers, okay, let's just say 200% to keep it simple. The market rent could be 1,000. That means you would get 2,000. If the market rent was 2,000, it would mean that you could get 4,000. That's being modest and conservative at 200%. Ours is more than that, okay? The percentage that we get is more than that. But let's just say for this exercise, it's a couple of 100%. So £1,000 of rent, £2,000 profit. I'm talking about the extra uplift. So actually 1,000 would rent for 3,000, and the difference would be 2,000. I don't want to get confused in there to confuse you guys. So there's a couple of £1,000 difference there. From that couple of £1,000, of course, you have running costs, you have operational costs, you have booking.com fees. If you use booking.com, Airbnb is a lot less money. Booking.com charges more money, but they have the bigger market share. And they spent around $5 billion last year on advertising and marketing. So really, you want to be on Booking.com.
Make sure you've subscribed, because tomorrow you'll get Show Me the Money on Wednesday. If you have a deal right now and you don't know the best way to structure it, if you post a deal in the community group on Facebook called Property Crash Course, Ryan will help you unlock hidden profits and save you from locking yourself into a loss on those bad deals that every property sourcer wants you to buy.
Anyway, £1,000 now actually rents for £3,000 and generates around about £2,000 a month gross profit. Can you see where I'm going with this? Can you see why this is the easiest and the fastest way to make money right now in 2020? You rent a property from a landlord. You take it, you pay the market rent, 1,000. We're using 1,000 for this exercise. You take it out of that market, the AST market, you put it on the short-term rental market, which is literally just Airbnb or Booking.com, where people, guests, travelers, companies, corporates, clients, land tenants, anybody at all who needs accommodation can rent from 1 night to 1 month, okay? 1 night to 1 month. When you rent in micro stays 1 night to 1 month, you charge and you get to achieve a lot more money. A lot more money, around about a couple of 100% more in monetary terms by running the property as a short let. Remember, you don't need a mortgage. You don't need a mortgage deposit. You don't need any credit. You don't need to pay a mortgage deposit. You don't need to jump through any hoops and have a solicitor or have any red tape. You haven't got any risk because all of the risk is with the landlord, the owner, that's already paid the money, already got the mortgage, is already on his variable fluctuation, his mortgage rate that goes up and down with the climate, etc. He covers the maintenance, he covers the repairs, he covers any, structural things, he covers a boiler and everything else. So you're getting everything and only paying the local market rent. You're making more money every single month than the landlord. Trust me. All you need to do, guys, if you're looking for how to make money in property right now, it's called service accommodation. We've been doing this for a very, 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 very long time. We've just acquired 5 more deals recently during the pandemic with one of my joint venture partners. I'm looking at, how many more deals today? How many more? Okay, I'm going on 3 or 4 viewings in a moment after this episode. 3 o'clock, I'm off to 3 or 4 more viewings, and I know before I've even gone to the viewings, I'll be taking 1, if not 2 of those properties. Paying the local market rent, charging a lot more by taking the property out of one market, AST market, and putting it on Booking.com or Airbnb, renting the property per night. This is the fastest way I know for any of you guys to make money from property right now, to build up your cash pot in property right now, to save for a mortgage deposit right now. And then you can roll that money on to another deal once you've built up your cash pot. Let's just say you're making £1,000 a month from each of these properties. That's £12,000 a year from one. Imagine you had 2 of those, that's £24,000 a year. 4 of them is £48,000 a year that you can just save up in your cash pot if really you want to then buy some property. Use this, create cash flow, create money, create freedom, create choice, create income, create stability, create financial freedom to create whatever you want to create, or go and buy a bloody Lamborghini, whatever makes you happy. This is the fastest way I know for anybody to make money from property right now.
He's a #1 Amazon bestseller. He's an NLP manipulator. He's a property course seller. He's a Lamborghini driving multi-millionaire property guru. Forget that same old boring I am me narcissistic podcast format, because nobody gives a fuck. This podcast is all about you. So I'm taking these few seconds to thank you for subscribing, to thank you for leaving your 5-star reviews, and thank you for sharing this show with all of your friends. My team and I will keep bringing you these episodes and answering all of your burning questions in my Facebook community group called Property Crash Course. If you can just keep telling all of your friends about this show.